second, I can now call to order the meeting of the City Council. I'll make a few brief notes about how the meeting's going to work. If you're joining remotely, please change your name display to be your first and last name. When you speak, please start by stating your name and where you live. We ask you to keep your comments in any section of the meeting to 3 minutes. If you're speaking about a specific agenda item, please keep your comments germane to that topic. Anyone who wishes to speak must be recognized by the mayor. Once you're called on, you may make a statement or ask questions, but we do not we try not to engage in back and forth dialogue during those parts of the meeting. Anyone who speaks out of turn, discusses non-germane topics, or goes on too long will be reminded to conform your conduct to the rules. We have we'll move to approval of the agenda. Is there everyone satisfied with the agenda as we have it? Okay. Oh, we'll consider the agenda approved, and then Adrian.
Mr. Mayor, I think you were going to add an agenda item, or maybe it's already on your agenda, about the homeless.
Yeah, I thought I just saw it here. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yep,
Yep,
yep, it's here. Yep. Thank you. And Adrian, because you're appearing remotely, I'd ask you to state your name.
Yes, Adrian Gill, District 1.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have general business and appearances. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the council on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda, and we will ask people to, if you're doing this in the room, come up to one of the microphones up here, and again, we'll ask you to keep your comments or questions to 3 minutes, and I already see one hand in the room, so come on up.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Stephen MacArthur. I'm a former city council member and a citizen of Montpelier for many years. I'm addressing Article 13 of the ballot. I know there's nothing that can be done about it. It can't be amended. But I have written what I regard as a different and I think a much more balanced article that would replace that. I would urge everyone in Montpelier to vote against the current one and consider this alternative. Shall the voters of the city of Montpelier advise the mayor and city council to adopt the following pledge? And I'm using the basic model of Article 13. We affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality for the Israeli and Palestinian people and all peoples of the world. We oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, oppression, including Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. We declare ourselves a community dedicated to peace for everyone in the Middle East. We reject calls for mass expulsions of the Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza, and equally reject calls for river-to-the-sea genocide of the Jewish people. We support the work of Musalaha, an organization that promotes reconciliation and unity between Israelis and Palestinians. The organization's name, by the way, is Reconciliation in Arabic. The Israeli-Palestinian Association, an organization founded in 1984 that promotes justice, peace, and equality for Israelis and Palestinians. Hand in Hand, an organization that has Jewish Arab schools throughout Israel where students learn both Hebrew and Arabic. Hand in Hand also organizes meetings among Jewish and Arab parents. And finally, Combatants for Peace, an organization of ex-combatant Israelis and Palestinians who work to end the occupation of Palestine. We condemn the racists and haters on all sides of the conflict and call for a two-state resolution. We acknowledge that Israeli settlements are and have been an extraordinary impediment to any resolution, and the territory they occupy must be substantially modified as part of any settlement. No reasonable person can deny that their creation has been one of the most destructive actions against any possibility of a peace settlement. I think I might still have a little bit of my 3 minutes left. On the opposite side of
13 seconds, so
what, few
10
seconds?
seconds, yep.
On the opposite side, you'll see a bio of a man by the name of Nawaf Masalha, an old friend I knew since the 1970s. He died from COVID in 2021. He
And
is
that's
a
your time.
brilliant example of an Israeli Arab who worked all his life for peace.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room? Yes, Paul. Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul Carnahan. I live over on Sabin Street. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I too want to address Article 13 on the March 4th ballot, which after several laudable statements about the need to end discrimination, bigotry, and injustice, switches gears and singles out Israel as the cause for these problems and encourages the council to, quote, join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation, unquote. I know that this item was submitted by petition and that you have no control over the language that it contains. However, I hope that you, as political and social leaders of our community, will take a stand against Article 13 because it singles out Israel and by extension, Jews in this community for the injustices of the situation in the Middle East. The reasons for voting against Article 13 are pretty simple, as I and several others set forth in a recent letter to the editors of the Times-Argus and The Bridge. One, the underlying issues are way too complex and nuanced to be addressed by this ballot item. Number two, the language in the final line of the article is strikingly one-sided. And three, the City Council has far too much on its plate to work on foreign affairs. This measure is also hurtful to many in the Jewish community. You may be wondering why this is. Growing up in southern Vermont, I was barely aware of my town's Jewish community, much less the importance of the state of Israel to the Jews there. After marrying a Jewish woman and creating a Jewish family, I've come to appreciate the importance of the state of Israel in many people's lives. Israel is a part of the Jewish identity that those of us who are not raised Jewish may never understand. It is a place of refuge for Jews the world over, one small piece of land where they know they will be welcomed if the world turns against them, which it has many times. Israel, like every nation, has its flaws. I am horrified by the current Israeli government's response to Hamas's October 7th attack. But Israel still remains a beacon to Jews in a troubled world. To vote for this measure, which inaccurately labels Israel as an apartheid-embracing colonial occupier, is an affront to the Jews living in this community. For them, for us, the statement is not an abstract proposition. It's very real, and it's very hurtful because the land is part of the Jewish identity. I urge you and everyone listening tonight to vote no on Article 13.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Yes, come on up.
Hi, my name is Rebecca. Thank you for allowing this opportunity. I'm also commenting on Article 13. I am Jewish. My ancestors came to the United States as refugees fleeing persecution in Western Europe and Turkey. Some of my family members denied entry through Ellis Island were sent back to Europe, where they perished in Auschwitz, reduced to smoke and ashes. Others found refuge in the land of Israel before it was even a state and live there to this day. I am also a Vermonter. I have lived in Montpelier for 7 years and in Vermont for 17. For most of that time, I have felt safe, welcome, and like I belonged. I have worked to ensure others, including refugees fleeing conflict, feel the same sense of safety and belonging. My heart aches for the suffering of the world, and I pray for a lasting peace for all people. But since October 7th, I have begun to question where I belong. I have witnessed celebrations of death, the denial and dismissal of unspeakable atrocities committed against babies and children and women and men. I have seen acts of violence and hatred spread across this country and world. Right here in Montpelier, swastikas have been scrawled in our schools. I have seen false and incomplete narratives about Israel arise all over Vermont. The seeds of violence are being sown. I now wonder, do I still belong in Montpelier, in Vermont? How long will it remain safe for me, for my family? Anti-Semitism is the oldest mind virus. It begins with distortions of reality like Article 13 on the ballot. It ends with violence and killing of Jews. History tells us that when anti-Semitism increases, it is often a warning sign of deeper fractures in society. It signals a willingness to embrace extremist narratives, reject pluralism, and turn to division rather than unity. I see the virus spreading. I see it trying to take hold in Montpelier right now. I implore you, stop anti-Semitism in its tracks. Vote no on Article 13. Send a message to the world that peace cannot come through falsehoods that endanger and divide our community. Peace built on falsehoods is not peace at all. It is violence in disguise.
Thank you. Phyllis.
I'm Phyllis Rubenstein. I live on College Street in Montpelier. I've lived in Montpelier since 1988.
Phyllis,
I've lived in Montpelier since 1988, and I'm an active member in the Jewish community. I have always felt that Montpelier values all of its residents, and I have felt safe and welcomed here. I too am speaking about Article 13. As Paul Carnahan said, he recognized that many Americans feel a great connection to Israel, and so do I. American Jews, as well as many Israeli Jews, want to see peace and justice in the Middle East. I was totally blindsided by Article 13. I was incredulous that my fellow residents in Montpelier would have signed a petition placing it on the ballot. So I contacted John Odom and asked for a list of people who would sign the petition. And then I became horrified because I personally know many people who signed it. And I started asking people whether they were aware of Article 13, and they said no. And I said, well, do you remember signing a petition that stated that asking the mayor and the city council to join others to work to end all support of Israel's apartheid regime, et cetera? They said no. And then, one wife said to the husband, but remember that day you were asked at the farmer's market whether you supported humanitarian rights for Palestinians, and you said yes, and then you signed something. And we see in today's Times Argus, Cindy Bogard explained how it came about that she signed it. She never read the petition. I've since learned that similar resolutions are on ballots in Brattleboro, Winooski, Vergennes, Newfane, and Thetford. The resolution was also brought before the Burlington City Council, which declined to place it on its ballot. Unlike Montpelier City Council, the Burlington City Council has the authority to decide whether or not to place a citizen's petition on the ballot when it raises an advisory question beyond the legal authority of the city. In making its decision, Burlington City councilors noted that the resolution was divisive. Article 13 does not reflect the values of the Montpelier I know. First, it's one-sided and ignores the complex geopolitical history of the Middle East, including Hamas's invasion of Israel on October 7, 2023, when it killed 1,200 people and took 200 people hostage. Second, Article 13 singles out and demonizes Israel. ignoring not only the actions of Hamas, but many other areas of conflict in the world, such as Myanmar, Zaire, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Congo, to name the few.
Thanks, Phyllis.
I
That's your
realize my
3
time
minutes.
is up.
Thank
I
you.
urge council members to vote, and my neighbors to vote against Article 13. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Clement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Rabbi Toby Wiseman. I am the Executive Director of Jewish Communities of Vermont. I am also a rabbi in the community of Beth Jacob Synagogue in Montpelier. I have lived and worked and raised a family in Montpelier for over 31 years. Like my parents and grandparents before me, I have a lifelong bond with Israel and the people of Israel. And like most Jews today, I believe that we have the right to live in peace in our ancestral homeland, Israel. Israel is not separate from our identity. It is deeply connected to Jewish history, culture, and survival as a people. Article 13 is targeting that connection, and by extension, intimidating Jews in Montpelier and throughout the state of Vermont. Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East where Jews, Muslims, Christians, Druze, and others live together, study together, work together, and govern the country together and protect each other's holy places. If we as a community truly want to support peace, we should look to the over 160 organizations that are building cooperation, justice, equality, shared society, mutual understanding, and peace among Palestinians and Israelis, some of which Stephen MacArthur mentioned. Please stand with the people and organizations who are working to make all Israeli and Palestinian lives better, without hate, without demonizing, but by bringing light and loving understanding and support all the good that is happening. Article 13 is dividing our community and making us, the Jews, a tiny minority in this city and state, feel unsafe. We feel unsafe. We feel alone, and we feel unwelcome. This Article 13 does nothing to bring peace. It only places 100% of the blame on Israel and, by extension, Jews for the conflict. Please, I implore you, vote no on Article 13.
Thank you. Steve?
Back to follow. I can't find a copy of Article 13 to even speak to that, so I guess y'all didn't know it was on the agenda either. I want to speak about the ice hazards on the sidewalks, that there's 6 and 8 foot icicles, hundreds of pounds that can fall and hurt people or pivot into the glass or pivot out into the sidewalk. And I've talked to some public works folks, and apparently we don't have an enforced ordinance requiring the building owners to clear the dangerous ice. I don't take a position on whether it should be a city obligation or a landlord building owner obligation, but it's a hazard right now, and there's not enough cones, and there's not enough safety, and there's not enough oversight of it. So I noticed 2 of our multi-$100,000 wayfinding signs got knocked down by the snow removal last night. They were only in about 1.5 inches, anchored 1.5 inches in, which tells me they've been unsafe and ready to fall on people. So there's another mess that was created, a lot of money spent that could have gone into public restrooms. I sent y'all pictures last Sunday that should have warranted an emergency action by a mayor or a city manager to get the city hall open because Capitol Grounds was closed. Shaw's bathroom was out of order. Access Cafe was closed. You know, there's no, city center is locked. You basically, we've had a toilets committee for how long now? And nobody has the integrity or the compassion or the dignity to provide restrooms for the people that are being bussed into town every morning at 8 and bussed back out at 6. So, or just casual visitors who need a bathroom, you know? It's just, it's uncivilized. It's really uncivilized, and it's a moral failure on your part to have not dealt with this, because I've been raising it for years. And y'all have done virtually nothing about it. We lost the 2 downstairs city hall bathrooms. The Green Mountain Transit Center could have been opened had we heeded my advice and renegotiated that lease so that we had keys to it. You know, you got an unhoused emergency right now, and you leave all the bathrooms closed on that particular day. So, one other issue slips my mind.
Thanks, Steve.
We got off easy.
Anybody else in the room? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else in the room seeking to be,
10 seconds.
yeah, 10 seconds.
Notice, I mean, everybody has my email address. Nobody thought it. I showed up at 6:30 at City Hall, and I had no prior notice that I had to go walk a while to a car to get down here. That's
Thank you.
mismanaged. I have to sit in front of the speaker so that I can hear.
Is there anyone joining us online? I don't see any Zoom hands up, but anyone who wishes to be recognized who's participating remotely, you can your Zoom hand raise function to do that. All right, not seeing anybody. We can move next to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to come off the consent agenda?
Second.
All right, the consent agenda is moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Lauren,
Very minor thing. I had just sent,
you may need to pull your mic closer.
sorry. Very minor thing I had sent to John Odom. There was a wrong vote count in one of the minutes, so he can fix that. So just flagging that.
Should we pull that particular item minutes off the agenda?
I might ask
John, do you
John
know
if that could be
which one it is?
easily fixed.
Well, I guess strictly speaking, if you wanted to call the minutes off, then I could put them on next time. That's fine.
Okay, why don't we do that?
It's
So
a
that,
meaningful typo. It's a
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah, we should, at a minimum, we should always make sure the vote counts are right on these things. Okay,
Yeah, it said 5-4 instead of 5-1, so I apologize.
okay. So we'll consider that, that item A is off the consent agenda, and the motion is to approve all the other items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have item 6, determination of whether to renew, extend, or terminate the employment agreement with the city manager. The chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the matter of the employment of a city official. Would someone care to make that motion?
I'm going to make a motion, but not that one.
Okay,
I think for purposes of discussion, our employment agreement with the city manager calls upon the city council and the city manager to
decide if the contract will be renewed or non-renewed by March 1 of 2025, for a period that would end March 1 of 2026. So basically, it seems that that's a question we should answer. So I'll make a motion that we not renew the contract for the city manager the end of this contract.
Without going into executive session to discuss the other matters that are part of the discussion we've agreed to.
It seems we should make the basic decision first.
I second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Carrie,
I would be much more comfortable voting on this after we had a chance to discuss it in executive session. And it would probably influence my vote. So I would prefer not to vote right now. I know that the motion has been made already, but
Lauren,
Yeah, I just agree with Carrie, so I'm gonna vote against this because I want to have the discussion before, so that we have a fuller picture of actions.
and someone also could make a motion to table it if you think it's premature to vote on it at this point. Helen,
Can we at least say what are we planning to discuss in the executive session? Not like doing anything illegal. Because we had a couple of executive sessions before, so I just want to be sure what are we discussing, that's all.
yeah, I think we can say that. It's the overall question about whether to renew, extend, or terminate the employment agreement, and then beyond that, to discuss the terms of the separation if one were to take place. And we have our counsel, our attorneys here ready to advise us on our obligations to the city manager.
If I can, sorry,
Oh,
Mr. Mayor.
yes, Ed, Counselor Alfano had his hand out, and then I'll get you. So, okay, Ed,
So
why
a
don't you
couple
start by
things.
telling us who you are?
Oh, sure. Sorry, my name's Ed Adrian. I'm with the law firm of Monahan Safar. We've been retained to work in conjunction with the town's usual attorneys to review this matter. I think it would be advisable to go into executive session first and have a discussion about this, A, and B, if you're going to go into executive session, I think you need to, say the magic words, which we can certainly assist with.
Thanks, Ed. Anybody else?
I move we table this motion.
There's a second. I did not bring my Robert's rules with me. I don't recall if this is debatable. Are we ready to vote on that question?
Table.
Which is to lay it on the table. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The motion to lay this motion on the table has been adopted. Now, the chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session. In council chambers, we have the printouts with the magic words. Ed, if you have them at your fingertips and you want to share them, that would be cool.
Sure. So there's two motions. First, I make a motion the words would be to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss contracts and receive legal advice, premature disclosure of which would adversely affect the city.
So the first part is to, that's the two-part one. So the first part is to
Correct.
make a finding that the premature disclosure would be adversely interest of the city. Carrie, are you making that motion? Or is someone making that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And now is there a motion to go into executive session? Carrie,
So I'll make the second motion. I move that we go into executive session on the basis of 1 VSA 313A1, discussing employment, appointment, or evaluation of a public employee.
is there a second? Oh, before we do that, does your motion include that we would ask our attorneys, Mike Tarrant, Sarah Buxton, and Ed Adrian, and potentially the city manager to participate?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Sal, did you second that? I'll second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will be out of here. We will go into the conference room down the hall, and we will be out of public session until we get back. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your indulgence. Tim,
Move we come out of executive session.
is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, before we left, we had laid Councillor Heaney's motion on the table. And do you have something to say now, Tim?
I'll withdraw the motion.
Is that acceptable to the seconder? Okay, we'll consider that withdrawn. And Councillor Alfano, do you have a motion?
I do. I move to not renew the city manager's contract and to direct the mayor to draft a separation agreement under the following terms as discussed, including a separation date of June 30, 2025, severance pay is provided for by contract, a general release, and other terms as required by law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Anyone in the public wishing to be heard? Steve Whitaker.
Steve Whitaker, I would like,
Recognize it. Oh.
I'd like to understand, I've asked who was representing who in this. We had 3 lawyers, and apparently they were representing the city, but is that the council or the city manager or both or one or the other? But I didn't get an answer, straight answer from a lawyer. Imagine that. But there is a need for a search and there is a need for a overlap period. For years, I've been encouraging Bill to, go through all his files and dictate into a recorder, especially a transcribing recorder. A Pixel phone, for instance, can create both an audio file for safety and verification, as well as a transcription of exactly what he knows about each one of these files and projects, because Bill's got a wealth of information here, that we pay dearly for. And we need to make sure that that's not lost or that we don't be hostage to a consulting agreement indefinitely. So during the period, which is sooner than I had anticipated, according to this motion, how we're going to preserve the intellectual property that we've accumulated in his head, and get that documented such that a next city manager, it might take 6 months to do a search for somebody who can handle the challenges that we face. So I would encourage that that kind of thing be considered, and it's not clear from this timeline or motion. And maybe it's inappropriate for y'all to go back into discussion, but I would like reassurance that those things have been considered. So,
Thank
thanks.
you. Anybody else in the room who would like to be recognized? I see there are a couple of people online, so I'll go to Anthony Arpino.
Hi there. I have a comment about the regular agenda item. I'd like to make that first, and then I'd like an opportunity to speak to the propriety of the executive session. So I'm going to speak to the regular agenda item first, and then when everyone has spoken to that item, I'd like to be called on again because executive session wasn't on the agenda and I have concerns about how it was conducted. So going to my original comment, my name is Anthony Arapino, along with my wife Jocelyn, on whose behalf I'm speaking. I live and work in Montpelier. We live on Sabin Street for many years, and before that, Berry Street, and briefly also Loomis Street. Our small law firm provides legal services to many downtown and retail and restaurant clients, as well as many entrepreneurs in the city. And we are proud sponsors of Montpelier Alive, where Jocelyn served 6 years on the board. I have also served on the city's Conservation Commission and as a volunteer in the Community Justice Center. These experiences have helped me understand that the city manager's job is the most important in the city. Unlike the city council and the mayor, it is not an elected position. Rather, under our city charter, it is a contract position subject to a regular cycle of expiration dates. In other words, it is not a lifetime appointment. Because the city manager is so important, the city manager's contract is reviewed periodically by the city council, whose job it is to consider whether the future success of the city could be best achieved with new leadership perspectives, skill sets, even while we can acknowledge and recognize past contributions of the employee whose contract will expire. The city faces critical challenges, some of which are longstanding and some of which are emerging. Lack of adequate housing supply, crumbling streets and sidewalks, aging water system infrastructure that's subject to chronic failure, flood resiliency and mitigation, affordability, and environmental violations and permitting challenges. We need to make more efficient and effective progress on these issues, many of which have worsened over the decades. Securing new leadership in the city manager position will not solve every problem overnight. But at this point, after decades of the same approach, the city council must take this opportunity, the upcoming contract renewal deadline, to give the people and businesses of the city the opportunity to see what a new leader can do in the most important job in the city. Business as usual is no longer what's best for the city. It's time for a change. I hope you will vote to support the motion.
Thank you. Peter.
He said everything I would have said. 30 years is enough. Let's see what a new, younger city manager who has been trained in 21st century city management can do here. We've got a lot of problems that need to be solved. I hope that you will vote as you've indicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else in the room who would like to be recognized? Okay, council members, are you ready for the vote? If so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We are on to our, did you want to say something on? Yeah. Okay, sorry, that's right, Sal, you've got a second motion.
I move to authorize the mayor to finalize and sign a separation agreement and to call a special meeting of the council before the end of February to ratify the agreement.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Anthony, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I have serious concerns about the executive session. So if I recall the motion correctly, it was made under 313A1, 1 VSA 313A1. You made a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the body at a substantial disadvantage. The ostensible subject of the executive session was a negotiation of, or a determination on renewing the city manager's contract. This is a contract negotiation. You invited the city manager into your executive session, yet you excluded the public. The only person, when there's two parties negotiating a contract, general premature public knowledge is only placing the public body at a disadvantage when you are telling the person who you're negotiating with what your negotiating position is. It was entirely inappropriate to include the city manager in there, or else you're finding that premature public knowledge would place the public body at a substantial disadvantage was a bogus finding. And I'm very disappointed that 2 hours of executive session later, when you had the city manager in the very deliberation about whether and under what terms to renew his contract, he was included. That is not how executive session under the public meetings law works. The only one that was put at a substantial disadvantage here is the members of the city who have no idea what you just talked about for the last 2+ hours that resulted in a 30-second vote with no councilor discussion. I would like the lawyers for the city to address the legality of making a finding that a contract negotiation would put the city at a disadvantage if there's public knowledge of it, when the very person you were negotiating with and ostensibly across the table with was included in the executive session.
Thank you, Anthony. Bill, you have a statement to make?
Yes. I accept the decision of the city council to terminate my contract. I acknowledge that the council majority has accepted the responsibility for this major decision and its financial repercussions. The essence of the council manager form of government relies on the manager respecting the decisions of the council, no matter how distressing it is to be on the receiving end of this particular decision. As I finish my tenure here, I find myself filled with gratitude for being able to serve in my capacity as city manager for 30 years. There will be opportunities in the upcoming weeks to reflect on the history of my time here. For now, I will keep it brief. I've worked with 52 council members and mayors, and the vast majority of those relationships have been productive and cooperative. For that, I credit all of us working in the best interests of this amazing community. I've served with the most capable teams of department heads and city staff. We have thrived at times under great duress as a thoughtful, creative, innovative, caring, curious, and responsive group. Together, the council, city staff, and the community have achieved significant successes and have courageously faced intense challenges over these 30 years. I am so proud of all that we have accomplished. The job of city manager has no boundaries. Emergencies are never scheduled, and because of the 24-hour nature of city work, one is always on call. Whether at the grocery store, gas station, school play, or sidewalk, a city manager is expected to be accessible, knowledgeable, and professional. At this point, I need to acknowledge my family. I'm incredibly grateful for the support they have provided me during my long tenure here. We are homeowners, taxpayers, community members, and have been involved parents, just like many of you. Our 4 grown children all went through the excellent Montpelier schools. My wife has served proudly in our school system for 20 years, often fielding questions or complaints about city affairs. I have succeeded in large part due to her honest feedback, emotional balance, and unwavering support. Although my position is not an elected one, it is a very public one, and my family has faced with patience and grace the many intrusions into their privacy as a result of my role. My deepest thanks to Anne, Olivia, Patrick, Claire, and Angus. And really thanks, don't do it enough. I love you, honey. Thank you. In conclusion, I pride myself on my integrity, and I will serve the city at the highest level until my last day of work. I will not pretend that a separation in this manner comes easily. However, because of my commitment to the city, I am dedicated to the most successful transition as possible for Montpelier. I love this city. I've devoted a large part of my life to serving it, and I wish nothing but continued success for our town. The Athenian Oath, an ancient code of civic responsibility that we city managers still abide by, states, "We will transmit this city not only not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us." I have strived every day to fulfill that oath to the very best of my ability. When I walk out of City Hall on my last day, I will be holding my head high. Thank you.
I think it really says something that the heads of all the departments of the city government have come down here to show their support for Bill and his work as city manager. I think that this action taken by the council, by the majority of the council, was seriously misguided. I know that the city manager has provided outstanding professional and ethical service during his entire time here. And if the council had not chosen to terminate or to not renew his contract, he would continue to do that. Bill's outstanding abilities and qualities have been recognized not only here within the city, but in his leadership of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns and the ICMA, the International City Managers Association. We have been benefited greatly from having Bill as our city manager, and I wish this had come out a different way. And we're way past time for our 8:30 intermission, so we'll break for 10 minutes and return to the rest of the business of tonight's meeting. Okay, folks, we're back in session. We still have some substantial items left to be discussed, and the question has been raised if they all need to be taken up tonight, or if we can move some of those to a future meeting. We have item 7, the weekend day shelter discussion. I'm looking for ideas from members of the council for what you'd like to move off.
Have to decide tonight.
It's discussion. It's not marked as some item for decision.
Carrie wants to say something.
Carrie.
It feels pressing time-wise to talk about day shelter for people with the temperatures and cold there, so I would love to keep that one on.
Okay.
I think we could put off the Country Club Road discussion to another night, as that's likely to be very long and other people may want to chime in on.
Other members, what do you feel about that? they've been here, they've been waiting to be heard, but if it's the pleasure of the council to move that to another meeting, we can. Lauren, were you going to say something?
I mean, maybe if it's 10 o'clock and we haven't gotten to it, like, I'm wondering like how quick some of these discussions might be if we. But
Why don't we get started, see how it goes? It's 9:20 now. At 10 o'clock, we'll again look at how things are looking. But the next item on the agenda is the weekend day shelter discussion. And Kelly, is that you? Yeah. It was brought up by a resident who's not here.
So I'm happy to just give a little bit of background. So we did get a request to put this item on the agenda, and the packet is that letter requesting that we review the day spaces that are available, particularly on the weekends for winter warming spaces. And so on the line, hopefully we've got Good Samaritan Haven, and they were earlier and they were planning to be here. Great. So I did send around to council a listing of available day spaces. And so really what's up for discussion is, what's available in town, and if there is any action that council would like to take in terms of exploring alternative locations, city locations. Currently, just for general awareness, I will say that we do provide an overnight shelter at Country Club Road that is staffed by Good Samaritan Haven.
Kelly, can I ask you to pause for a moment?
Of course.
Nat, would you please move out of the room while you're having a discussion? No, really, get out of the room. Thank you.
You got it. So we do provide an overnight shelter. We have talked about the potential for maybe providing additional day services at that space. That space really is not ideal. We would need a service provider to be able to staff that. And so, weighing options. And then the other piece is that, a few meetings back, we did enter into a good agreement with Good Samaritan Haven to offer day space. They are working those spaces out. And so in the letter that you get, some of the spaces are identified for during the week. The struggle really is finding weekend space. And so what was suggested is that maybe perhaps some of the city buildings downtown might be available. And that's tricky because we still are recovering from the flood. Some of the buildings that we do have are not ADA accessible. And there are a lot of different cubbies and warrens that people, might end up in. And so they're not really safe. So I'm going to leave it there and just see if the writer of the letter is available, or if Julie wanted to provide any feedback for discussion.
Thanks, Kelly. Julie, do you have anything to add?
Thanks. So also just want to recognize Bill and our beautiful partnership that we've had with him, with Good Samaritan Haven. So we've done a ton of due diligence in attempting to find another location to offer day services, and we continue to do so. So this is an in-process situation. We've been working with the city, we've been working with the state on different properties and opportunities. Locations it's important to analyze them, for safety, for layout, for a variety of things like that. So that's part of the conversation for all of the options that are brought forward. But we're still in the process of it, and we're not going to give up. So I'm happy to entertain any questions around it, but there's not an immediate solution at the moment.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
Lauren.
Julie, is there anything that the city could be doing to help? Is there something some action of the council, something we could be seeing if staff could do? I mean, it sounds like the work is being done to try to find a solution and there's challenges, but is there something an action that you hope we take tonight to help support you?
Necessarily, we're still trying to work it out. I don't know what would be additional, support or services other than all trying to identify a variety of spaces that include, lots of city spaces, different state-owned, city-owned, community-owned properties. Anybody that's willing to step up, private landlords. We're really wanting to have a dedicated space for the day program. I think that's important for all of the community, all of the programming that's happening at our wonderful partner of Christ Church Episcopal, who's hosting the food program right now as well. So we're trying to be as gracious and accommodating for all the things that are happening there. But if anybody has ideas, please bring them forth, and we'll analyze them, based on what we think we need for that program.
Lauren, go ahead.
Just one other question what is the state doing to help?
We're talking about various properties with them. We have been for a while. So we're going back and forth. We take a look at various properties as they're available, just to see if they make sense for this kind of program. And I've been as recently as today talking with them again about it. So it's ongoing, and properties come up here and there over time, and so we've been looking at different things, and some just aren't the right fit, and that's just how it is. So
Thanks, Julie. Anyone else on the council? Sal.
Julie, I'm just, if a space was available, could Sam handle a weekend situation with personnel to monitor it, or does Good Sam know of an organization that could? I mean, my understanding is that finding providers is as difficult as finding space.
Yeah, I think we need to analyze how we would do that. We currently don't have the full capacity of staffing to do the 7 days, but that is partly a matter of another hiring process as a possibility. It's also another possibility of shifting the days that the program is in operation, so that we shift the days that we're able to operate, or that we are able to staff, across a week, so that a weekend is covered versus weekdays. So it's not out of question.
Thanks. Anything else from folks? Nothing from any members of the council, Steve?
Some of you may not know that the Access Cafe in Bill Kaplan's building closed yesterday. They're going to have some residual events planning with the community, but I think that space has been used as day space by a number of the folks who are unhoused. I don't know whether, as I understand it, that Good Samaritan is under contract with the state to provide 7-day coverage. And as I understand it, they were under agreement with this council to provide 7-day coverage when we gave our last $45,000 of ARPA money. So I'd like to ask, where is the accountability to a contract? We don't have access to their records, even despite my suggestions that when we give money to nonprofits, we condition it upon transparency. But here's a prime example of where we were told we're buying 7-day, our 45,000 plus the state share. We're buying 7-day coverage for folks to be indoors, and we're getting 5. And we're not enforcing a contract. It's true, we gave them money outright without a contract. We shouldn't have. But they also are not paying a reasonable fee to the churches that they're using for these spaces. So it's when there's this kind of money that Good Sam is taking in from the state and from local coffers, we should demand some accountability and some transparency.
Thanks, Steve. Kelly?
Search of a power cord for this laptop, which I'll plug in after this item. So just to speak to that a little bit, we have been talking with Good Samaritan Haven in terms of reporting out on the funding. So we know sort of what's been spent to date. Actually, in fact, very little has been spent to date with the money that has been given just based on what they've been able to line up. We do think that those services will be rendered. And so we do intend to report out on, sort of the facts and details. And, we're doing the best we can with a tough situation. And so we are thankful for our partnership with Good Samaritan Haven. Additionally, I will say that we are working on getting a group of service providers together to kind of talk things through and think about different solutions. And so, there may be a way to cobble together some day services. And so we're working on it, and there'll be more to come.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay. Oh, Zach.
Sorry. Good evening, Zach Hughes, Montpelier. Yeah, I wanted to just also say this has been tough hearing about the decision of council on Bill's contract, and I'll have more details for you all at a later date. But I wanted to speak about the day shelter. Oh, I don't know what there is to do. I was out there a couple weeks ago and could have used a space to coordinate with somebody during street outreach. And it is really cold. I wish the service providers could come together. I know Good Sam's really trying. And things, to the critics, things do happen during these type of things. So we might very well approve that ARPA money, but things do happen, which I will not go into, but these things do happen. And, the thing is, Good Samaritan is in good faith trying to find another location. To the critics, I would say, try it yourself. Join the forces. But I really think this is a priority. Temperatures are dropping. People need to be able to get in. Or we need to find another solution. Maybe, I don't know. Bring people somewhere. I don't know. But that's just me. Thank you very much. Yield back to the mayor.
Thanks, Zach. Okay. Thank you for that discussion. It's going to continue. Obviously, one of the things that that has been clear overall is that real estate is not the only answer. We don't need a space. We also need staffing, and it's not as easy as just getting some well-meaning volunteers to sit in the space with people. And so it's no less intractable than it was 6 months or a year, 5 years ago, and we got to keep working on it. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Next, we have a couple of item 8 on the agenda. We have 2 applications for appointment or reappointment to the Design Review Committee. And we have Martha Smirsky seeking a regular seat reappointment and Liz Pritchett seeking an alternate seat reappointment. I'm looking, are either of them here? Doesn't look like it. Is there a motion? Tim.
Move to reappoint Liz to DRB.
Thanks, Tim. Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We are up to the next item on the agenda, which is discussion of the future of the Country Club Road appraisal and potential sale of the property and future recreational uses. Is that you, Bill?
Yep, and there's some other folks here too. So as you know, we received an unsolicited offer to purchase the building and some land around it, I think approximately 4 acres. The offer was for $750,000. The council directed me and our staff to get an appraisal of the property done, as well as evaluate the potential land swap for use for a road access. And that information was provided to you in January when it all came in. And we were in the middle of budget, so we put it off till tonight. So I think there's a lot on the table here and a lot to do. I think number one, we need to respond to the offer. And my recommendation is that we decline to sell the property. But I do think we, even though we didn't put it out to sale, we got a bona fide offer and we should at least say yes or no. And number two, I think, again, my recommendation, and I know there's folks here to talk about all this, is, we spent a lot of time on this property. We purchased the land with rec money. We purchased it. It's in the bond, in the actual vote that it would be used for rec purposes. It was brought to our attention initially for rec purposes. We did a public process that identified this land as a prime place for housing, and we continue to move that forward, but also for recreation. And we've looked at what it takes to upgrade the 55 Berry Street property. We've looked at a bunch of other locations, and there's been a lot of talk about different sites that the city doesn't control. Done a lot of studies. The most recent Power Wellness kind of backed up what we're thinking and said, we ought to this here. And I certainly realize the financial situation of the city and know that we're not going to be building a major new facility there this year, next year, putting a bond on. But I recommend that we say this is where it's going, that the council determine that this is the future home of recreation, and that we will start our process. And over the years, we will do designs, and we will do, all the things that we need to do to get ready, and fundraising and grant writing and everything that needs to happen to set a project in motion. We all know they take a long time, and it starts with setting a vision that says, here's where we're going. So that's number two. And then I think, we have talked a lot about the possibility of having private or nonprofit partners. We know that there's at least one interested who says that they are ready to build some facilities up there. I would suggest that we seek long-term lease proposals from any interested people, and you would direct us to prepare those and put those out. But basically, to have a proposal process where people could show what they were proposing, how it complemented the cities and fit, so that it was being done in a way that the city could also do what it does, and that we could either work in partnership or at least peacefully coexist. And we'd have a process so that, we hear from everybody. And, it may be that another group is ready to move more quickly than the city is. And maybe the lease revenue could use to help fund some of the designs and things that we need to do for our building. Obviously there's a lot of other choices that you can make. I tried to outline them in my cover sheet, but I guess feel like we've been at this for a long time, and it's time to set our true north. We have, in the interest of time, whether you want to do it, we do have the rec department here prepared to sort of outline their thinking for the property. I know there's one of the groups that's been interested in, and I think will be interested in bidding, is here. It's up to you how much you want to discuss this, what presentations you want to hear. But so I think this is kind of where, this is, in my view, the short version of where we're at and the path I would go down if left up to me.
Thanks, Bill. Arnie, do you want to come on up?
All you gotta do is Carol.
Arnie, I should just tell you, I've been castigated for letting people go on too long. So let's try to be efficient.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not saying that you're not efficient, but I just let people talk. And so
No, we've actually planned on trying to move things along because we got some folks that from our rec board that would like to also share their views a little bit. And so we're gonna power through the PowerPoint and then we'll try to keep things moving along. I'm Arnie. I'm the director of the Recreation Department. I want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to present our community center concept plan for 203 Country Club Road. A community center at the Country Club Road could serve as a cornerstone for Montpelier, offering space for social, educational, and recreational activities that bring people together. Our presentation will share many reasons Montpelier could benefit by building a new community center. So starting off with our current building. You want to do the slide? Oh, did I miss your thing?
No, it's okay. So in the last 2 years, we have been spending a lot of time talking to all sorts of people.
And could you introduce yourself, because I think some
sorry.
council members may not know.
I'm Heidi Arias, I'm the
Thanks.
assistant director.
Thanks, Heidi.
So in the past year, we have been talking to all sorts of people, from our youth groups or organizations to our families or participants in our summer day camps and our youth group programs, to our pickleballers and new time basketballers, to even our school coaches and athletic directors from the nearby high schools, Montpelier and U32. And based on all those discussions, we have created the following vision and concept that we believe would be a great asset to this community.
All right, so many of you probably are either been or at least seen the outside of the current building. This building was built in 1932. It was purchased by the federal government in 1970 for $25,000. It was a former armory. The building is currently 93 years old and has been owned by the city for 55 years. The entrance to the stairs going into the building is our only entrance to the building, at least for the public. We do have an exit if people need to get out at the back side of the building. Our main hallway and coat and shoe changing room are kind of the only places where parents can kind of wait for their kids or hang out while their kids might be practicing. Our gym we have one bathroom on the second floor. That's a unisex bathroom. For those of you who've been in that building, we have a locker room downstairs. It's a men's locker room, which was again built in 1932 when it was an armory. So they didn't really plan for that accordingly. But the basketball court is much smaller than a high school court. It's about 2/3 to 3/4 the size of a high school court.
Right now, we just wanted to highlight our current programming that we have right now and the facilities that we do. And you can see from the rec center, some of the activities that we do currently, as well as Dog River Field, the rec area field, where we have our municipal pool facility, and our baseball fields such as Mountaineers and Little League, as well as the Country Club Road now that we use for our youth soccer program, the community room inside that we rented out and we do special events out. So these are the only facilities that we use for a lot of our programming. Some of the highlights, the takeaways from all of this is that for the rec center, only one program can happen at a time. And when we use a lot of the space, we limit that time. So for the past, so I'm highlighting that just with pickleball and noontime, we have had an average in the last 2 years of 500 people participating per month. And that's just with those two groups. And they want more time, but they also have a limited time because like pickleball only has 12 people playing. That's only 12 people are allowed to sign up per session. And we have over 300 people in our pickleball lineup. So every week I've got to be telling people, you can only sign up for 2 or 3, not all 5, you know, you have like 10 sessions. But as soon as I put it up, within minutes, it's already full. So, but that is also one of our biggest revenue there as well as the pickleball. Also our youth sports programs, in the last 2 years from I've been here, they have grown substantially, not only our recreational, but also the higher club levels such as soccer and basketball. The Capital Soccer camps during the summer have grown tremendously. Green Mountain Select AAU has also, you know, doubled a lot of their teams. So everyone's just looking for more space in general. Many of you guys asked about the schools. I can tell you again, there's not much space. Just last night, I practiced until 9 o'clock at night, so I was here. So again, there's not much no one wants to practice that late. And it happens on both gyms. So there's just not needed space. You know, the hard thing is trying to balance the activities, and the rec center is pretty tough. But I do think that we do fail our teens between the ages of 13 and 18 years old. There's just not enough space for them. So my last highlight is like, if they're not part of a team or a school team, they just don't have access to any type of recreation outside of school. You know, so the basketball team is 12 kids, JV and varsity, you talk about 30 kids. What happens to the rest of those kids? They have a limited time. So that's just kind of highlighting our current program in a nutshell a little bit.
Thanks, Heidi.
Okay, we're going to jump into our concept plan. This is just kind of a vision of what the entrance could possibly look like. And then this is the internal of sorry, the look of a field house is what the big area is that we're looking at. The space all the way to the right that has a bunch of courts on it, that right now is kind of a tentative space. That's really not part of, it could be built on later, but we're looking at mainly the basketball courts and the turf area. And the turf side of the area also has an indoor track. So soccer, baseball activities or other spring sport activities like lacrosse, camps, camp play space, multi-use track and more could all be going on in that space, and many things could go on at the same time. As for example, you could have an indoor soccer group in there while people could be walking on the track as well. As we all know, there's upwards of 6 months of winter in Vermont, and not everybody likes to be out on the icy streets walking. So this would be an opportunity for promoting health and safety during the winter. The gym side would be a wood floor with a couple of basketball courts, several pickleball courts, a couple volleyball courts, and we often use those areas as also for dodgeball, badminton, futsal, as well, and more. Part of the advantage of something like this is, one, we can do multiple things at one time. So we can do many, many more rentals for leagues, teams. One of the areas we're really missing out on, I think, is for the 20 to 40-year-old group. There's not a lot of space for that group. I was having a rec board meeting one time, and I mentioned that's an area that we struggle to get people to come out. And one of the members said, well, actually the 20 to 40-year-olds leave Montpelier and they come back after they get over 40. So this could be an opportunity to keep more people, in the area and have more activities. And also, we could have more than 4 times the use of our current building. Like Heidi said, one activity at a time really limits potential revenue generating. If you're trying to look at either renovating a facility or building a new facility, we've got to also look at the revenue generation potential, because otherwise you'll never catch up if your revenue streams are limited.
Yeah. And so like pickleball only has 3 hours a day. Basketball, for adults only has 1.5 hours a day. Dodgeball has 2 hours a week. There is a badminton 2 hours a week. Indoor soccer rentals. So, and this is just not enough time to use the facility. A lot of people just want to keep being able to use it at a more time. So yeah. What we would like to see in the current building, the country club building, this is something like our vision that we talked about, is another studio space where we could do different classes, expanding on the dance and fitness. We also, again, I'm a big advocate for our teens. They need a space. They need to get out of basements. There needs to be something there that where they can hang and also be, have different types of leadership programs just to continue on, and the maker space. Definitely something that is growing, where there can be a variety of tools and materials, they work on their STEM skills, hands-on learning. All that is definitely needed in this kind of space. But right now too, for the country club, we have been currently using the community room a lot. We have turned it into a mini gym space for the winter right now for toddlers. Been quite the popular space for play groups and families to bring in their toddlers in the winter. It's actually been renting. I think I have like 5 or 6 rentals of birthday parties up there already. We just hosted our Winter Fest, as you heard last week, up on the country club, which we really highlighted the building and the facilities there too. We have a lot of cross country, skiing and running up there. A lot of the both schools host meets there as well. And as you know, we have the Feast Farm that's run by the Parks Department that also uses the facility as well as the building for storage and other items.
So addressing community needs, the current building is too small. Demand for capacity as interests grow and change. The demand for public spaces exceeds capacity. We need the ability to offer more than one program rental at a time. The building condition was also something that Power Wellness spoke about, that it's going to be expensive to retrofit and really not a viable option. And as well as accessibility is a challenge around that building. The other thing that really makes this a hard space to use for those who have been there and may have seen it is we can only really have practices there. There's no space for parents or spectators to watch. If you walk down the side of the basketball courts, you can see there's not a lot of space, that if somebody gets bumped, they're pretty close to the wall really quick. And we also have a great need for after-school space, which we're hoping to start to develop up at Country Club Road as well. And again, to make it feasible to really produce renovation, revenue generation is just having that need and ability to be able to have multiple things happening in the same facility. And we spend a lot of time, unfortunately, turning groups away or renters away for lack of space to be able to rent.
Again, the slide shows, our model recreation is we create community through people, parks, and programs. Our programs are essential. Just the other day, quick little story, pickleballer. We were just chatting with a group of people, and he just turned to me. He's like, thank you for saving my life. And I was like, what are you talking about? What did I do to save your life? And he's like, you save my life every day that you guys are open. It helps me get out of the house, and I have a few times a week to play a game with my friends. That's what you do every day for me. And all the seniors were laughing and stuff, but it took me by surprise, like, wow, yes, I am kind of. But we love having them. And the community center is also, it's not just about sports, having dedicated spaces for other programming, for teens or meetings or whatever, it's so essential. My wife reminds me all the time because she's a theater music person. And so I'm the sports person. So she constantly reminds me, like, you gotta think about always everybody else. We always have to think about the whole community and not just a specific group that we are interested in.
So economic growth is a huge opportunity here. We could see economic growth by creating local jobs for youth and adults in our community. We can boost the local economy by hosting special events such as AAU tournaments, indoor soccer leagues, ski and skate sale, arts and crafts fairs, and the farmers market are just a few examples. But jobs are one of our biggest areas of employment is our pool and our day camp right now. And many of these jobs are these folks' first time of employment, because we are the one group that's able to hire 15 and 16-year-olds to be employed. With the new center, one of the things that could be created for job opportunities is youth officials, youth camp coaches, and camp and after school counselors are just a few examples of potential employment for the youth of the community.
Yeah.
And also we want to create a safe gathering space that is well lit and well maintained to reduce risk of crime and antisocial behavior in the area.
Yeah. And lastly, can't forget about our partners and our local organizations. I've had the last 2 years such a great opportunity to work with all of these and some more, and just being able to build on those relationships and to continue to provide some really neat activities and programming and summer camps is it's been quite the treat. That opportunity is endless, and we'll continue to do that with all our partners.
So in conclusion to this part, a new community center in Montpelier can have a profound impact on the local area, fostering stronger social ties, economic impact, support health and wellness, enhancing educational opportunities, and providing a variety of services that enrich the lives of residents. I would love to see this vision of ours for a community center to become a reality. It will take time and it will be a significant financial investment in the community. A new community center will not only meet the needs we face today, but it could give Montpelier an economic boost into the future and will bring new families to town, new businesses, and people from all over Vermont to visit. If we get 100 years or more out of the new facility, what a great investment that could be.
Thanks, folks. So Arnie, you're saying that for the vision, our vision of recreation in Montpelier should be Country Club Road.
That would be what this is my fourth time on a potential facility. It goes all the way back to the facilities committee. I think Tim might have been involved with that back when we got bumped off the thing because we're under the school system and they built the library. They had to put a bond on and put $5 million into the school and we got taken off. But that being said, there's so much potential for recreation up there and the potential to bring money into the community in multiple ways and revenue generation, with the right facilities would be a huge benefit to Montpelier and would help support the costs of what recreation does. So,
thanks.
Slide out. Thanks.
Okay, these remarks are timed at 6.5 minutes. And then Heather is going to take
Under 4.
under 4. Okay, just so you know what you're in for. Right. A couple months ago,
remember always start with your name.
My name is Chris Hancock. I serve on the Recreation Board and am taking an interest in the state and future of our town as well. A couple months ago, you heard me talk about how valuable the Elks building and all the land around it are for Montpelier's future and its recreational future. I hope it's clear from Arnie and Heidi's talk that the recreational needs of the community are much broader than what is addressed in the building that the hub will build. So I'm not going to talk about that. I want to make a few comments, though, about the specific scenario of selling the Elks building to the hub and by extension also even leasing land to the hub, I guess. That's a more a newer topic. Maybe we'll come back to it. But I want to talk about risk, efficiency, and management, and then a possible alternative view. Actually, first, though, I want to note that in recent weeks, I've met separately with several leaders of the hub. And I would love to see the civic spirit, imagination, and resourcefulness that they clearly have mobilized behind a municipal community recreation facility that meets the full and actual recreational needs of our town. And in turn, makes a critical difference in the feasibility of housing development on that site. So let's talk about risk first. Power Wellness, the consultants the city hired, have seen many towns develop recreation facilities under all kinds of ownership and management partnerships and arrangements. Their strongly worded advice to us is that in any arrangement with a business, whether a lease, a sale, a shared site, the city would need to protect itself very carefully against that partner's business risks. Bear in mind that the hub is not National Life. It's not Onion River Outdoors. At this point, it isn't actually a business. It is a proposed business venture. Moreover, it is a group of people venturing into a field in which they have little experience and no business track record. Of course, I would wish them the best, whether at this location or somewhere else, and it's possible they might succeed. But should the city be gambling a business that is, a building that is precious to our future on their long-term success? A key part of the hub's plan is virtual golf stations, which are meant to bring in revenue needed to sustain operation of the tennis courts. That might work. Virtual golf simulator stations were also part of the plan of Montpelier Rec, a private mission-driven facility in Randolph. They raised money.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
I think you might be getting it too detailed a level for us. I'm not sure what other people think.
I don't really see how that could be. I mean, we're talking about risk.
I'd be glad to hear missing hub group, and it's not productive for where we are tonight. It's been a rough meeting, and we need to get through this. Okay.
All right. So we're talking big picture.
Actually, I'm talking about other examples of towns that have had have had a bumpy road with their. So, I mean, you could call this dissing, but I'm talking about towns. And I'm about to tell you 2 3-sentence examples, things that have happened in towns where, like Montpelier Rec, they put in these golf simulators. Nobody came and they tore them out. Is that dissing the hub to describe this as a facility in a town near us that stumbled and the town has suffered as a result? Similar in Morrisville, they bought into a community center being developed and owned by a private entity, Lamoille Health Partners. Today, that community center is locked. Lamoille Health Partners fell on harder times and is looking to be acquired. So my point is, as the city council, the city and the city council need to be very mindful of these kinds of risks. So,
okay, great.
Now I've asked hub members if they would want to personally run the facility they envision. No, they plan to hire people for that. What kind of people do we want running a facility? We want them ready to handle any kind of situation that might come up while our kids are in their care. When we use rec department programs, I think we take that for granted a bit. We pull up at summer day camp and drop the kids off and don't worry about that at all. Consider that we aren't just trusting Arnie and Heidi, the department leaders, to take care of our kids. We trust them to hire, train, and manage lots of other people, some of whom don't have previous childcare experience. We just drive up and drop our kids off. No further thought about it. I'll tell you who does think about it every day is Arnie and Heidi. And when someone calls in sick or a camp supervisor is unavailable, guess who's showing up to make sure the camp always has the experienced leadership it needs? So my suggestion to a outfit that wants to set up another facility is, if you're looking for good people to run your facility, you might consider the Montpelier Recreation Department. And you might consider integrating tennis courts into the municipal sports barn rather than building a separate one. Now, for a while, I was tentatively supporting the two barn solution, but I've come to recognize just how inefficient that is. You can build a freestanding tennis barn for, say, 6 million, or you can add a couple tennis courts into a municipal barn for a fraction of that. One roof instead of two, one foundation instead of two, 4 walls instead of 8, one HVAC system, one sprinkler system, one staff member on duty, one heating bill. The math is obvious. You're going to save more money through this approach than you will ever earn by offering virtual sports machines to golfers. Big picture, the 10,000-foot view, it would be just crazy for Montpelier to wind up with 2 barns on a hill when we could have one. Any aviator passing over, whether from Massachusetts or Mars, would be asking themselves, what the heck went wrong in that town? Now, hub leaders know everything that I've said. They know that their venture has business risks. They know they're not experts in recreation management, and they know that it would be a whole lot cheaper to include tennis courts in a municipal barn. Why did they feel they had to go in this direction? I don't know all their reasons, but one factor they've told me about is pessimism that the city would ever be able to make something happen. Can our leaders and our population find, yeah.
I see the representative from the hub shaking his head. So rather than representing what another party might have to say,
you can ask them, but I think I'm reporting a conversation as I understood it.
Well, let me put it another way. Yeah. Do you have 1 or 2 sentence wrap up?
I think I'll save it. It sounds like you guys aren't really into it, so I'll save it.
Okay. It has.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Heather Bailey, and I am the chair of the Montpelier Recreation Advisory Board. I'd like to thank the City Council for hearing the Rec Board this evening on such an important issue. The Recreation Advisory Board provides review and consultation for recreation department leaders on management, policy, and other issues in their work. Monthly Rec Board meetings are also a venue where citizens and groups, from softball to tennis to skateboarding, engage with the recreation department. Through these conversations, through volunteer work for recreation department events, and through our own participation in many of city's recreation offerings, we have a good understanding of what the department does and what the community needs. We recognize the need to contribute collectively as the Rec Board to the public discussion of recreation facilities. Tonight, I can summarize in a few bullet points a sense of the Recreation Advisory Board in relation to the country club property. Number 1, recreation is a municipal responsibility. Many private groups and businesses enrich Montpelier's recreation ecosystem, but the city must not abdicate its core responsibility. Number 2, our current indoor facility on Berry Street is inadequate. It provides a fraction of the space that our citizens could be using on most a daily basis. Citizens and department staff are bumping up against its limits. It continues to deteriorate and is not a viable option for the future. Number 3, to meet the real needs of our community, a new, larger facility is needed. For this purpose, the Country Club Road site is uniquely viable. It affords the opportunity for more recreational function at less cost than any other site. Number 4, as we delay, childhoods are passing. Kids and families are losing out on opportunities for recreation. The impact on quality of life in our town and on a generation's attachment to the place where they are growing up is real and ongoing. Number 5, the Recreation Advisory Board urges the City Council to preserve the possibility for a municipal recreation and not sell this prime portion of the property to the hub.
Thanks, Heather.
I have one more.
Oh.
Number 6, a new municipal facility is an investment in the future of Montpelier. We urge the City Council and city leaders to work with us this year, 2025, to develop actionable plans for a new indoor community center as an integral part of a revitalization, sorry, I'm getting my mouth getting dry, revitalization plan for Montpelier. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Any questions from members of the council? I want to call on Nat because Nat, you've been here for a long time. You want to come up? You don't have to. We had some communication with you from you that indicated general support for the proposals laid out by the city manager. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to say a few words.
Yeah.
I could be relatively.
Great. Wait till the microphone clears so you can be heard loud and or far and wide.
I'd first say that
And again,
I think I can keep this to 5 minutes.
great. And could you start with your name?
Nat Winthrop, Vice Chair of the Hub. We have always emphasized a collaborative, complementary relationship with the city rec department. We've always been clear about that. We've been at this, as you know, for going on 3.5 years. Just to remind you of a couple things. We were the ones that notified the city of the availability of this parcel. We had already negotiated a long-term lease with an option to buy with Steve Ribellini and the other prior owners of the golf course. The city broached the public-private or public nonprofit partnership back before they floated the bond. National Life of Vermont gave us a 3-year grant, $25,000 a year. They only gave us the first years because then the project got derailed and delayed and delayed. We also had a letter of intent from the Vermont Community Loan Fund for a sizable loan. Our fiscal sponsor is the Montpelier Foundation, which is affiliated with the city. And we've had ongoing discussions with the council and city hall staff throughout the intervening 3 years. Power Wellness also met with us and recommended the public-private, public nonprofit partnership. We have a business plan that we're in the process of updating. And I guess given the situation with Bill's stepping down in 3 months or so, 4 months, I would urge moving with all deliberate speed, his staff, including Kelly Murphy, Arnie McMullen, Josh Jerome, Mike Miller and others are all very familiar with our plans and our history. And our board is full of people with substantial business experience. Of course, there's always risk with this kind of thing, but we're confident that we can make a go of it, whether or not the city ends up building a new rec building up there. We would welcome a new rec building up there. But obviously, Bill has himself said that that's not likely to happen in the next 5 to 10 years for reasons I think you're all familiar with. Okay, that's my 5 minutes.
Thank you, Nat. I really appreciate that. All right, so folks, what we have here, and we get into these situations where sometimes we feel we hear a lot and then the time to discuss is pretty limited. But the big picture, so I'll ask people where you want to go. The big picture proposal from the city manager is a pretty straightforward 3-step recommendation. 1, decide we're not going to sell the property at the present time. 2, formally endorse the Country Club Road site as the future of recreation in Montpelier. And 3, seek long-term lease proposals for some kind of private-public partnership to that would be complementary to our future potential uses. And do people feel okay with discussing this at that point on those terms, or do you want to have?
Can I make a quick motion? Maybe we can at least deal with tonight
Yeah,
more expeditiously.
yeah.
I'd like to move that the city decline to sell any portion of the Country Club Road property at this time. As first part of the motion. The second part would be that the city council shall direct the city manager to bring private and or nonprofit recreational groups like the Hub together with the rec department and to cooperatively generate proposals which will enable public-private partnerships to help meet Montpelier's future recreation needs and to be complementary with future city recreation plans, possibly through leasing portions of the Country Club Road property and the building.
Is there a second?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Because I actually agree with the substance of what Tim said, but I think our proposal was simply to do the RFP process to determine which one we would partner with to develop what you're talking about, because otherwise we're just going to have I don't know how many there are, but you give everyone a shot and then pick out who we're going to work with and then develop the plan accordingly. So
I really don't think there's that many, to be honest with you.
I would do, but still, it's whatever you guys want, but that's when that was our goal.
So I'd like to see the rec open up a little. It's like cooperating. I don't know how you cooperate with the Civic Center or any other facilities either, but it seems like we really need to pool our whole recreation scene and not have it be so parochial that it's something that you just control through a city rec department. And really the message I got tonight was pretty parochial. I think you need to open up more and bring more people in for more resources to help us move forward.
Discussion from members of the council. Carrie.
I'm just looking for a little bit of clarity. Your motion is to, if your motion passes, we would end up with proposals that we would then decide if we want to do anything with them or not. So we're not obligating ourselves to anything in particular. We just want to solicit proposals so that we have some options to consider. Okay.
Lauren, did you have your hand up? So.
We have a proposal in hand from the Hub, and they've been at it for 3 years. The building would be there now at half the cost. Had the council made a decision 3 years ago when they first came here. It just seems to me we owe it to these people to either fish or cut bait on their proposal. I think all they're asking for is a sit down to just sketch out what might be possible, what might be.
Mic is off. I think you might have just turned it
I
off.
turn it off?
Yeah.
Looks like you did, yep.
It's just my thing.
And do you think that what you said is inconsistent with what Tim just said?
No, I think it's inconsistent with what Bill just said. Just, soliciting general proposals. I mean, we have one. Why not look at it and decide one way or the other on it? In the absence of others, I understand there's,
Right. It's really up to the council to decide how you want to do this. I think I do understand that. And I also felt we have received criticism about not having, not seeking other proposals, that there's been one group that's come forward. And so I think our thinking, and we actually had a couple of long meetings with the hub folks about this approach and basically said, look, let's go through a public process and see who else is out there. There's probably nobody. We'll get a proposal from them, and then that would basically, then we would designate you as our partner and then work this up. And then it would eliminate the feedback that nobody else had a chance. But that's how I reached my conclusion and recommendation. And, I talked with them about it. But you obviously don't need to do that if you don't want.
well, if I could, I would just say that the property was bonded as a housing and recreation site. So it's been out there for 2 years, that's what it's for.
And that's why
We have one proposal. We didn't put up a billboard, but it's been obvious that the intent is to use it somehow for recreation. So your plan would work. It just extends it. But I don't know what the timeline would be on that. What would it take to request to seek proposals? What would
we were looking at
window be?
I think we were looking at sort of, well, one thing, we're gonna have a new council, so bringing it back into March to the new council. So they'll be the group shepherding it going forward.
So you got a request for a proposal out there for how long? A month?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be an extensive period of time, and then
March, April.
Again, it's really. It's kind of a policy proposal. Policy idea of how you want to go solicit a partnership. I think it was simply saying, let's give everyone a shot. We really only know of one player, but anyone else is out there, this is their time to step up and show what they got. We designate the proposal you select as this is the partner, and then we work with them to come back, and at some later date, partnership comes back and says, here's what we've come up with for a long-term plan.
Well, it would work. It just
adds a little time.
Further delays it at least a couple of months.
And so I think is that process element of opening it up worth the extra time? And that's a policy call for you folks.
Tim, do you have any other thoughts on that? Anybody else? Any comments from members of the public?
Yeah, I think just to put this in a bigger perspective, this has been a poorly managed planning process for that entire property. We've got a vague concept plan. Well, we got a concept plan from White and Burke, 3 of them, in fact, for that property. And what this is doing, it's unwisely pitting recreation against housing with who can get there first and make a carve out. Until all of our planning and all the recommended next steps from the White and Burke report were shelved after the July of 23 flood. And we have not picked them up. I keep telling you, we've got to get started on those things, and they have not been picked up. So there are alternate sites that have not been explored for recreational needs within walking distance of the town. We're getting worried about our commitment to net zero, and we're going to put hundreds of trips a day out in vehicles out to Country Club Road, despite the fact that we've got a fundamental prohibiting factor in that intersection. We are not going to be allowed to put both housing and hundreds of trips for recreators up through that intersection into Route 2. And we have no budget or plan for another road in there. So this is just really folly to be, oh, let's do this and let's do this, but we haven't done the due diligence of what's the carrying capacity of the intersection, what's the carrying capacity of housing, and what's the carrying capacity of recreation, and how are that recreation and housing going to fit together. So I believe you need to get restarted, focused on the complete planning. If we're trying to get a growth center or a new town center in order to get qualified for TIF, you could make all the plans in the world, but if the water and sewer don't get paid for to get up there, you're not going to have housing or a rec center. So I just think somebody's not connecting the dots here. And it's the fundamental constraint is the Route 2 intersection. The detailed site plan is needed to get the growth center, to get a new town center, to get the TIF. And yeah, I've already said it. Hundreds of new trips are not going to be allowed over that railroad grade intersection. And so I just wanted you to have a picture that's bigger than what you're hearing, because we're kind of flailing in this direction and flailing in that direction, and nobody's completing the necessary planning.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Council members, anything more? Are you ready to vote on Tim's motion? If so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Back to the agenda, city council reports. Lauren?
So this is likely my last regular city council meeting, so just wanted to share a few thoughts. Mostly just gratitude. First of all, thanks to city staff. Bill spent countless hours with me when I onboarded. We met every single week for probably like 3 years, and the amount of patience, thoughtful input, brainstorming on ideas, helping move forward ideas that I brought to him. I've just always had a great relationship with him. Deeply appreciate the service that he's brought to the city, the way that he collaborated with me. And I will miss working with him and thank him. City staff, even through really hard issues and processes like the police review committee and PFAS at the wastewater treatment facility and homelessness and, on and on, every single time without fail, working with the departments. It's been people who are highly professional, thoughtful, smart, dedicated, care deeply about our community, are working day and night for serving us all and making it a better place. And I'm grateful for all of you. Counselors, I've met a lot of great people. I've made some, I think, lifelong friends on council. What I appreciate is even when we disagree, including tonight, on really hard issues, we do so respectfully. And I know that every single person I've served with through my 6 years cares deeply about the community and is doing what they think is best. And, there's no ulterior motives or personal benefit that anyone's seeking. It's, even when you disagree. And so it's always been respectful, and even through really hard conversations, I just know everyone here is just trying to make the community a better place, and appreciate that. For the community, I thank everyone for electing me 3 times to serve and continually reaching out, engaging, providing ideas, thoughtful input, serving on city committees, and so much. And, really, I just know that there's so much love for our community and so many people working so hard to make it a better place. And especially right now when there's so much division federally, our federal government is being overtaken by tech billionaires and people looking to profit instead of serve people. Our community just continues to inspire me with its engagement and caring for each other. And I'm stepping down from council, but we'll continue looking for ways that I can support the community and my neighbors. And thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lauren. Helen.
No report. Thank you.
Tim.
I think quickly, just to thank everyone for their patience as we work through our process tonight and also through the budget. I think as I get close to signing off on city council too, it's been a challenging experience and the structure that we work under, it's not normal. And in a way, the only time that we talk as a group, not in a way, the only time we talk as a group when we're all together at these meetings. And I think people assume that we have all these other conversations going on and when we get here, we've had more chance to be prepared and to work things out. And that's not the case. And that's why you hear us sometimes run a harebrained idea, the flagpole here, when you think that should have probably been worked out beforehand. It's a really different dynamic. And I, for future city council members, I think one suggestion I would have maybe for helping it is thinking about other legislative bodies. And when they have committees, the committees usually are made up of members, like, the House and the Senate. And so then you have a group of members that come back. They're the experts in that field and can hopefully, help the council to move forward. Our committees are all citizen committees that have one, maybe two councilors as liaisons, but it doesn't give us that same dynamic. So I think one suggestion I would have as I leave is, they're amazing people and it's like how to make this job better and more productive for folks. And I think one would be to cut the number of committees drastically and make them more council committees that you can use to help build good decisions. But thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Sal? Carrie? Mayor's report, I just have a few things to mention. One, we received a letter from Joe Troiano, the Executive Director of Montpelier Housing Authority, along with the check from the Housing Authority for a $3,000 voluntary payment in lieu of taxes for Gould Apartments. And every year we get this, and I really appreciate that that they see fit to recognize that the benefit they get from the city and to pay for the services they get. And it's not anything that anyone's making them do. So I'll pass this to Bill. So we have a copy of that. I don't know, we must already have one, but second, Bill may also be touching on this, but we have a meeting tomorrow with the people from the General Services Administration to talk about the federal building. And it's a first step in a long process. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'll be interested to hear what they have to say. Third, in my stack of mail, I got a letter from someone out in California. And I wonder, well, why is someone from California, from Sacramento, writing to me? And it's a letter addressed to all the people here on this on the back of this page about immigration and sanctuary policies and how bad they are. And I just think, in these times, coming out and being publicly opposed to immigration is literally un-American. And she's asking me to sign on to this letter. And I was just initially just going to put it in the recycling bin, but I'm not signing on to this person's letter for this is not what America's about, and it's certainly not what Montpelier is about. And finally, I'll just mention our regular meeting on the 26th will be another opportunity for people to talk about thoughts or ideas they have about the items on the ballot, including Article 13. City Clerk.
Yeah, hey, I just want to take a moment of personal privilege regarding Bill. I'm going to have a lot more to say about this in the future, a little more thorough, but I just say anyway, there'll be more, so consider yourself warned here. But right now, I just want to say it's been a pleasure to work with Bill, who has had to abide what seems like a nonstop barrage of slings and arrows from some corners in town, both off and on the council over many years. Now, But I want to say with the caveat that I'm not a typical city staff person, as I'm not part of the hierarchy or otherwise accountable to anyone but the voters, who are the best bosses anyone could hope for. But I work closely with city staff, and I want to take some liberties that hopefully don't irk any of my coworkers. This is going to be an open wound for staff, so I feel like somebody should say something. So just one quick thing. Make something clear. I've never seen a boss more beloved, and the loyalty between a supervisor and the people who work for him so high. And I worked for years in politics, which can get a little culty, so that says a lot. And that's my message, but fair or not, I'm going to add that the feeling among many in the staff is that this loyalty has been questioned as being overstated, or worse, characterized as somehow not legitimate or manufactured. Or all I will say is that anyone who may feel that they can be in staff's head like that is being both presumptuous and infantilizing at best. Everyone in that building, all love Bill, all on their own accord, and will continue to. And I know there are going to be a lot of tears in that building tomorrow, and I'm not exaggerating. So it's been a difficult process for a lot of people, no more than Bill. Obviously, I don't want to make this about staff, but I did want to maybe stick my neck out a bit and send that message, and maybe see if any number of people might get mad at me tomorrow about doing it. And again, I'll have more to say at a later date.
Thanks, John. Jim, I see your hand raised. The period for public comment was at the beginning of the meeting, so I'm not going to be calling on you now, but there's always another opportunity. City manager's report.
You mentioned the meeting with the GSA tomorrow. We also have another meeting with BGS on Tuesday. I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, thanks, folks. We are adjourned at 10:37.